Mickey 17 was easily my most anticipated movie of the year. Directed by one of my favorite directors ever, Bong Joon Ho, who made a top 5 film of all time in my opinion, Parasite. He casted my favorite working actor of all time, Robert Pattinson, in the dual role of Mickey Barnes. From The Batman to Good Time, Tenet to The Lighthouse, there are too many phenomenal performances to mention, and with an insanely wonky concept and $118 million behind it, I finally saw Mickey 17, and this is exactly what I wanted in every single way. A disposable human is sent on an expedition to colonize the ice world Niflheim. After a fatal accident, Mickey is reprinted with his memories intact, but when Mickey 17 unexpectedly survives, he confronts his successor, Mickey 18. Like I mentioned at the top of this video, the biggest, main, and most exciting thing I want to talk about here is Robert Pattinson in the lead role here. I could go on and on about his past work, but the only essential one to this conversation is his most recent work in Miyazaki's film The Boy and the Heron, where he plays the Heron with one of the greatest voice performances of all time.
What exactly are you?
Your mother. She's awaiting your rescue.
And after the first trailer for Mickey 17 dropped, I knew we were in for a treat.
There really was an unknown virus in the air. Lethal one?
I'll get into the thematic ideas in just a second here, but the way that Robert Pattinson is able to not only play Mickey 17, but 16 versions before that character, the little we do get of all of them, and Mickey 18, while 17 and 18 are on screen for a good chunk of the movie at the same time, he's able to play them all so differently, so uniquely, and it does feel like they are the same exact person with slightly different memories each, but you can tell what is in their head and what isn't in their head all from the surface level performance. And then when you get deeper into certain moments between these characters, which I will say there's not as many as I wanted there to be, but the small moments we do get between them, I think is absolutely phenomenal. My favorite thing about this performance is the fact that when they are on screen together, you truly are able to see two different characters. Even though they are supposed to be the same person, a cloned version of each other, they have both just recently gone through two completely different things. One having already had a lot of time alive, and one being printed as of recent 2 hours ago in the movie. You can tell the difference. You can tell the difference in life outlook, and that's all just because of Robert Pattinson's performance. And I think those two characters alone set the tone of this movie very well, because even though these two characters aren't the most satirical parts of the film, which we'll get more into later, they do an amazing job at setting the table for that. And I'll get into the rest of the cast and performances in just a second here, because I think everyone across the board is phenomenal. But my favorite thing in terms of the relationship between Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 is the fact that the second Mickey 17 meets Mickey 18, that's when that thematic idea of really fearing death for the first time comes in for Mickey. And that sequence in and of itself is amazing. But this movie related to me on such an amazing, a level that I didn't even think was going to happen going into the film, even though I was so excited for it. I knew of this general concept. I knew of the talent behind and on the screen. I just didn't expect this movie to hit nearly as hard as it did. The idea of not only facing death, but being ready for it after experiencing it like 15 times up until then, it is brilliant stuff. I wish that they had given us more character moments between Robert Pattinson's different versions of Mickey, at least the earlier versions as well. But I think it also works in terms of understanding how quick the deaths are and how every single death feels like so minuscule to him because he dies multiple times. But these conversations and the idea of how he learns and grasps with the actual idea of other people dying and never coming back and never being alive again is something that's so foreign to him that he doesn't really understand, and he never can grasp that concept until he finally does at a certain point, which I won't get into. But the way that that all happens is so perfect. And then obviously with Bong Joon Ho also comes a lot of great political relevancy, and I think it's all done really, really well. It is all very on the nose though, and that is exactly what I expected from what we got in the trailers and what Bong Joon Ho has said about the villainous characters. I think every single parallel is so apparent throughout the entire film. The movie in and of itself never tries to take itself so seriously. They make all these political figures and this general political idea that they're going for so out there and so comedically just in front of you that you can't help but notice it in the most funny way possible. I think sometimes it gets to be too much, and I also think the setup for the political ideas isn't absolutely amazing. What I mean by that is you have a couple of flashback sequences where we kind of understand how Robert Pattinson and Steven Yeun's characters actually get to the place that they're at, and those are interesting, but they're not super compelling in my opinion. More so, it's the future idea of the conquest that these political leaders are trying to do. That's more interesting than any of the backstory stuff. And then getting into the performances, I want to start with Mark Ruffalo because that's the second best performance in the entire film, in my opinion. He is absolutely amazing. I wouldn't say this is his best performance. I think he was a little bit better in Poor Things, but he is so great here. He does this really weird, bombastic political leader that we can all draw parallels to, but I think he does it really well. Naomi Ackie is phenomenal. She was so amazing in Blink Twice, and I still think she was a little better in Blink Twice than she is here. And her monologue, her big moment here, feels a little bit forced because, again, we already knew all of the parallels that they were drawing, but it still works. It's still very, very great for her character. And I think her dynamic with Robert Pattinson, not only Mickey 17, but 18, and the ways that these characters are different and the way that she interacts differently with both these characters, it's phenomenal. Chemistry is off the charts. And then you have Toni Collette, who doesn't get insane amounts of screen time, but she's always next to Mark Ruffalo, and she's hilarious. They are a great pairing. And then Steven Yeun is also so good in the moments that he does have. He was a really unexpected character about halfway through the film, in my opinion. I mean, he's introduced from the get-go, but he kind of becomes much more interesting of a thematic idea as the film goes on. And I think the general character work is similar to things that Bong Joon Ho has tackled in the past. But overall, this isn't what you expect from a Bong Joon Ho film. I find it really funny that there's a big sci-fi epic based off of a pretty recent book, and this is what he decided to tackle after winning 1 million Oscars and basically getting a blank check from any studio in the world that he wanted. He himself even said he feels bad for Warner Brothers for having to promote this film. But man, I fucking love it. His consistent directorial style, the way that he's able to implement these external creatures, building out this different world, which I'll talk more about in just a second here, it is all phenomenal. This is textbook Bong Joon Ho. I think Parasite and Memories of Murder are miles above this, but they're trying to do something completely different. I think this is more so on the level of Snowpiercer. I enjoyed this much more than Snowpiercer, but that's the only real comparison I can make. But I would love to not make any comparisons at all because this feels like something completely different. This is the most, I guess I'd say, politically active blockbuster we've gotten in the last decade, and feels really like only something Bong Joon Ho could cook up. But the final thing I want to talk about is the world building, and this kind of goes hand in hand, in my opinion, with the technical flair of this film. Visually, it's not doing as much storytelling as his past films, but I think the creature design and the overall like Icelandic world that they're going for is really, really cool. The idea of space travel and where this futuristic world is at was also super entertaining. And the way that Mickey 17 and 18 feel like the perfect character vessel to establish how this world is moving forward, the Expendables program, and just in general where the world is at in this film compared to our real world and where we could be in the future. I think it all works very, very well. And it really does go in hand with the overly expressive political satire going on. At the end of the day, I was so excited for Mickey 17 and I absolutely loved it. I want to rewatch this one as soon as possible because not only is it one of, if not my favorite Robert Pattinson performances of all time, but it's another Bong Joon Ho hit. Overall, I'm going to give Mickey 17 an 8.5 out of 10. If you've seen or want to check out this film, let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.